Talktainment Radio Worldwide Sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning and welcome to 2015. This is TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and you are in touch with the Compensatory Concept. I am Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. On the phone line from Washington, D.C., and I'm going to assume that in Washington, D.C., it is also frigid like it is here, is Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and he's going to break down any of your questions that you may have and explain even further what the compensatory concept is. He has written a book and a word guide to help you along, and we're going to get into that and discuss that so that it can help you navigate through this world that is dominated by racism, white supremacy. Good morning, Mr. Fuller, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Is it frigid in Washington, D.C. as it is here?
Yes, sir. Well, I don't know about there, but the streets are beginning to clear up now after a snowfall that happened yesterday.
Yes. That big storm. Okay, starting off 2015. Before we start off, Mr. Fuller, I was driving in, and I had heard something concerning Bill Cosby, one of the stars on the show that he had, the Cosby, I believe it was the Cosby Show. Felicia Rashad, one of the co-stars, she played Claire Huxtable. Of course, he played Heathcliff Huxtable. Said that she believes that that this attack against Bill Cosby has been orchestrated. Now, she didn't say by who, but orchestrated. She says that's not the man that she knows of, and that his wife, Camille, is a very strong, very, very strong woman. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll go according to what I've written about any situation that happens in the system of racism. Many things happen that should not happen. And many things that are said to happen are very, very, very true. And many things that are said to happen are not true. So it's just a matter of what a person wants to believe, and then after they make an assessment of the individual's belief, because that's what it comes down to. What does each individual believe about things that happen and the people who make these things happen, and make an assessment based on why it happened, what the circumstances are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then come to the conclusions of whether it's true or not, first of all, and then what should be done as a result. And that takes in a lot of things that will require, presumably, some serious thinking, if it's a serious matter. And then you just go from there. How do you react to circumstances that are reported? And I'll repeat something that I've often said that was said by others way before me, and that is, in a war, the first thing that dies is the truth.
Yes.
And so, therefore, the first thing you want to know about any circumstance or anything that is reported to have happened is what is the truth. And you have to take it occasion by occasion, incident by incident. All of the circumstances should be taken into account. Mm-hmm. And then you always think in the terms of, in the system of white supremacy, anything that shouldn't happen is likely to happen. Mm-hmm. And you also take into account in the system of white supremacy, every individual, without exception, is seriously flawed. There are no people on this planet who are not seriously flawed, collectively or individually. And where's the logic behind that? How can you make a broad statement like that? Because we're in a system of white supremacy, and that's the dominant system on the planet. So that means that everybody who is in the system, either as a person that practices racism, white supremacy, or as a victim of it, is a seriously flawed person. That's just the logic, if you stop and think about it. And, some people may agree with that statement. Some people may disagree. But if you stop and think about it, if you have a system that is a flawed system that's dominating everybody on the planet, directly or indirectly, either dominating or affecting everybody on the planet, directly, indirectly, in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And you have a system that is flawed, that dominates people's behavior in all of these areas of activity. Then all of the people in that system, logically speaking, are seriously flawed people, because you have a seriously flawed government system that is worldwide. Now, that's a long way around of explaining, or my reaction to the question about Mr. Bill Cosby, but that's the umbrella in which it all takes place.
Mm-hmm. And that's just a piece of the umbrella. 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call. I will repeat that again. 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call to get in touch with Mr. Fuller, to ask him questions or make a brief comment. Before we ask you, Mr. Fuller, your thoughts on what's going on in your world, tell us about the book. A lot of people ask me about the book. Where can they get it, and what the book is about, and the word guide. Can you speak to your book, please?
They can go to producejustice.com. That's the place to go to. I wouldn't recommend that they go any other place other than that, producejustice.com. And the reason I say that is because I have probable cause to believe that people who practice racism might be tampering with some of the works that are associated with the work that I'm trying to do. They're tampering with the concept, and this is what has come to me directly or indirectly from various sources. So you go to producejustice.com and you get the actual book that I have written.
Yes.
Called the Textbook Workbook for Thought, Speech, and or Action for Victims of Racism. And there's also an additional book that came out in 2010 called A Compensatory Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide. Now, it's similar to a dictionary in that it produces words, it shows words, presents words, but it presents them in such a way that a victim of racism can use, if he or she selects to do so on a selective basis, the words and their definitions, and raise questions about words that have to do with the support of racism and or have to do with countering racism through the use of words, because the racists themselves, the white supremacists, the people that believe in white supremacy, they are the master of words, particularly in the English language, which is a very prominent language throughout the world. And they use words in such a manner that the words help to support the system of white supremacy. And if people, if they are not watching words very closely, including people who are opposed to racism, if they use words in a certain way that the racists have engineered, then they are actually using the words that the racists are using that actually support the very thing that they are trying to oppose.
Yes.
Case in point, the use of the term America in association with racism. Sometimes the victims of racism will use the word America in association with the term white supremacy, when there's no association at all, if people stop to think about it. What does the word America really mean? The word America or Americans. What are the qualifications for being an American? Well, logically speaking, you can't be an American and be a white supremacist at the same time. It's either one or the other. It's impossible to be an American by definition, if you go by a logical definition, because the logical definition of an American is that an American, in order to be an American, a person in order to be an American, cannot mistreat anyone. That's an absolute. The minute you mistreat someone, you are not an American. Not only that, you're not an African, and you're not an Asian. You're just a person that mistreats people. And that's all that you are. You're nothing else. The moment you do it, you have disqualified yourself, at the very least, for those three titles: African, American, Asian. You're none of those three. And this is how I describe it in the book. See, we have to use words in such a way that the tools, which is what words are, tools for accomplishing a job, the tools always work for the most constructive benefit. Words should always be used in a manner that the result of the use of those words is a constructive benefit, a constructive effect. That's the whole purpose for using words in a constructive manner. And all words should be used in a constructive manner.
Yes, sir.
And so I sort of guide people, or try to guide people, in thinking in that direction. They shouldn't swallow it whole without questioning even things that I write, and question them to find out, first of all, is what is said is true or should be true, and if what is said is of constructive benefit.
Yes, sir.
And act accordingly.
All righty. Okay. Before we ask you, we do have a caller on the line. Let's see here. Okay, caller, what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning.
Oh, wait a minute. What is your question for Mr. Fuller? Go ahead, caller.
Oh, yeah, good morning. My question was that a couple of weeks ago, Attorney General Eric Holder had issued a memo in regards to transgender workers, saying that they now are entitled to Title VII benefits where they can't be discriminated against. So I guess one day if a male comes in and says that now he's a female, that the jobs can no longer discriminate and allow him to, I guess, hypothetically, if he wanted to use the women's bathroom or, start doing things that women normally do in the office, that now that the Department of Justice is recognizing the transitioning, they call it, to another sex. So I wanted to know from Mr. Fuller, how does that play into the system of white supremacy?
Sex is a very powerful force. In the textbook for victims of white supremacy, in the book that I've written, it is the second most powerful force to the system of white supremacy itself in motivating people. That's a presumption or a conclusion. I consider it a illogical conclusion about the people of the entire planet. The system of white supremacy is the strongest motivating force, and second to that is the area of sex, the eighth area of activity, I call it. And the white supremacists are aware of this, in my opinion. And the white supremacist says, if we're going to dominate all of the non-white people on this planet, we have to be able to manipulate their sexuality to our advantage. That's the conclusion that they come to. Not just that one area of activity, but all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, and sex and war. But sex, by it being a very strong motivating factor, the white supremacists naturally would want to control that too, along with economics, politics, religion, and everything else, when it comes to their victims, who are the non-white people of the planet. So therefore, how do you best control people to your advantage in that area of activity? You can do it by causing confusion. They do it in all areas of activity, in economics, in politics, in religion, for sure. But in sex, they definitely have to do it, which means they're in the process now of causing the non-white people of this planet to degenderize themselves and to go along with being degenderized so that you have what? Maximum confusion when it comes to sexuality, so that nobody knows what anybody's sex is, and sex doesn't matter, and there's no such thing as male and female. That's all a bunch of myth. Somebody made it up. That's an old custom that is outdated, and that a male is the same as a female, and a female is the same as a male, and that might change any minute of the day, anywhere at any time, depending on what's in a person's head. And don't pay any attention to the physical attributes that a person might have, or the physical dysfunctions, which now the white supremacists may or may not say, depending on if it's to their advantage. They would just simply look at a male and say, oh, your state of mind says that you now are a female for the next 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And, by it's 11 o'clock, and by noon today, you'll be back to being a male again. And then by 1 o'clock, you might be a little bit of both, and on and on and on. And then a lot of people, non-white people, have picked that up and say, yeah, that sounds logical, that your sexuality is all about what's in your head. It has nothing to do with your physicality or whatever, or your physical being, and how you interact with each other physically. That's all just an illusion, that everything is about what's going on in your head at the moment. And the white supremacists say that they will put whatever is going to be going on in your head at the moment. And if you're non-white, you're supposed to go along with it. Why? Because they are the smartest people in the world. So you go along with it because they say so. And don't think about it yourself. I mean, it might hurt your brain if you are a black person. Because a black person is not supposed to think about anything. They're just supposed to act. That's the white supremacist doctrine. All of the thinking is supposed to be done by a white person who believes in white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the essence of white supremacy. So the long and the short answer is that's just more of the confusion that the white supremacists are putting on the non-white people of the world, and it is working beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have another question there, caller?
I just wanted to add that, I believe that Mr. Fuller is correct, because I don't know how true this is, but I've seen, certain postings on the internet say that even Tyler Perry is coming out with a cartoon of Madea. And, I just think how detrimental that's going to be to our children. If parents allow their children to sit down and watch a cartoon with the man pretending to be a woman.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe. You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. And if you'd like to get in contact with the show, you may do so, as our caller has, by calling 1-877-932-9766. Okay, caller, your final question.
Yeah, that's it. That's
okay.
All I had.
All righty. All righty. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All righty. Mr. Fuller, you mentioned just a moment ago that the supremacists, or I believe it is, are the smartest people in the world. What do you mean by that, the smartest people in the world?
Smart, according to what I have written. Now, different people have a different idea of what is smart. Many people have said, I should not say that. That's a terrible thing to say.
Yes.
Well, first thing I say is it true? Like, if you're going to talk about anything, if you're going to talk about solving a problem, first thing you want to know is it true? And some people have said, well, it may be true, but you're using the incorrect word. Smart doesn't really cut it. You should use the word like cunning, like sly, like tricky. Well, if a person is cunning, sly, tricky, to your detriment, and you don't know what to do about it, that person is also smart enough to do what he or she is doing. You're trying to oppose this person in their devious dealings. The person is smarter than you. If you are not smart enough to outsmart the person who is trying to harm you, the person who is detrimental to you. Now, I have often told people, because black people in the Northwestern Hemisphere are somewhat familiar with football, particularly black males, so I use the football analogy. I don't know of a coach of any kind, white or non-white, who doesn't come in at halftime and say, you know what, they outsmarted us in the first half. That's why we're 60 points behind, because we got outsmarted. Their plays, the plays that they're calling, they're smart plays. I mean, we might call them devious, we might call them tricky, we might give all kind of tags to them, but we are being outsmarted because we are losing.
Mm-hmm.
We are losing, and our opponent is smarter than we are at playing this game. Now, let's not play word games with ourselves here at halftime. Let's figure out what it is that they are doing and how they are doing it. And when we get out there, we come up with some formulas. They're going to put us 50 and 60 and 80 points ahead because they are 50 points ahead. And we got to win this game. And let's not play with that. Let's not sit here and play games with ourselves and say that, well, they're this tricky, but, they're not really smart. They're a bunch of dumb football players, even though they keep beating us every season. But they are dumb. So if they are dumb, what does that make us?
Mm-hmm.
If they are dumb, what does that make us? That's the question. You got dumb people who are telling us what to do, providing the jobs, the housing. Go here, go there, do this, boy, do this, gal. worry about whether or not I'm going to call you an N-word, but I'm not worried about whatever you call me because I have power and you don't. Am I smart? Who's dumb here? Who is ignorant here? Who is the smart person in the room? I tell people all the time, just because Neely Fuller says that the white supremacists are the smartest people in the world, they don't have to believe that. Go and check and find out who the smartest people in the world are. And then tell me.
That makes sense. A statement has been made. I think the caller made the statement alluding to Mr. Tyler Perry. I guess the cartoon. I myself have not seen that, but I've noticed that there has been a propensity for a lot of black men in Hollywood, and I think I have a pretty good idea of who controls Hollywood. But a lot of black men, stars, if that's what you want to call them, wearing women's clothes or dresses. It to me, and I could be wrong on this, but from my studies, it looks so emasculating. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's just what I said before. The white supremacists are behind it, and they are rewarding it. If you show any signs that you want to be a logical, what many people, I don't know where this term came from, alpha male, a real male, a male who is attracted to females on a wholesale basis, on a singular basis, I mean, in a sexual manner, I mean, and also who, along with being masculine, is not a thug, but a logical person, a constructive person. That is deadly to the system of white supremacy. But a male, a black male, broad-shouldered, tall, so-called handsome, whatever, and who wants to be a female or would rather have a male as a quote-unquote sexual partner, the white supremacists in the year 2015 approve of that, and they will reward that. So many black males who feel on the fence anyway about a lot of things, including what their mission is on the planet, will just go along with whatever is easy, because that's easy. They say, oh, if they tell me to be effeminate, if they tell me to go around and try to be the same as my mother or my sister, they will reward me. Oh, okay, that's easy. I'm looking for something easy to do, because being under this system of white supremacy and being a black male, a sure enough black male, standing up for manhood and doing everything that I can to go from boy to man, that's hard, because the white supremacists do not want that under any circumstance. That is bad for their business. So the white supremacist says, now I can make everything much easier for you. I can have you pimping. If you don't want to be degenderized, I can have you pimp your sister or your mother. And this will be fine. I'll compromise with that, and I will help you do that. I would even throw in a few white women that you can pimp.
Wow.
Just to show you, that, hey, it's not about race and all like that, And you can then, as a pimp, you can go back to being the old type pimp style. That is, you can get you a big pretty hat and some gold shoes and paint your fingernails and let them grow long like an old 1940s pimp, and get some furs around your neck, and then I have effeminized you.
Wow. Let's break here. The TalkTainmentRadio.com. Check us out on WCRS-FM 98.3. Wednesday and Sunday evenings, blogs and podcasts are available. Download TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. We go where you go. Radio, the way it should be heard. Coming up next, we're going to ask a provocative question to Mr. Fuller. All that and more coming up next on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTainmentRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTainmentRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Life insurance. It's one of those subjects that make people want to, change the subject. Are you sure you have enough? That's why I, State Farm Agent Nikki Ogundile, focus on the benefits of life insurance. I ask people to think about life without having to sell the house insurance or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, Nikki Ogundile, at 614-274-7130 in Central Ohio or 1-800-717-3497 in surrounding areas. Put the life back in life insurance.
We can give you a new heart.
We can help you walk again.
We can perform brain surgery.
We can treat a sore throat.
We can bring life into the world.
We can work so many miracles, but the one thing we cannot do is read your mind.
When you communicate with your doctor,
when you ask us more questions,
you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake.
Tens of thousands of lives are lost every year due to medical mistakes.
The healthcare community is working on it, but you can help.
Please, open up. Ask more questions.
What are the side effects?
When should I expect my test results?
Will this medication interact with my other prescriptions?
We can't answer if you don't ask.
Help reduce your risk.
Questions are the answer.
Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him opening his own clothing store at the age of 18? 1 in 138,000. Excited to be a part of pop culture, he packed for the big city. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. I encourage you to learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Brought to you by Autism Speaks, the Ad Council, and TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
Goodwill is a global social services enterprise and the leading nonprofit provider of job training programs and career services in the United States and Canada. To pay for its program, Goodwill sells donated clothes and other household items in more than 2,700 stores and online at shopgoodwill.com. Goodwill uses the revenue earned from these sales to fund job training, employment placement services, and other community programs. The goal of the campaign is to increase goods donations to Goodwill, inspire an emotional connection to the Goodwill brand, and to elevate preference for Goodwill.
Supporting minority education. I'm Sean Booker, dammit, from The Melting Pot. I'm here to tell you that as the mother of a high school senior, I know due to financial circumstances, many of America's deserving minority students do not have access to a college education. Since 1944, the United Negro College Fund has sought to provide one. Since 1972, the beginning of this campaign, UNCF has helped more than 300,000 talented students earn a college degree. I'm Sean Booker, dammit. Give a helping hand.
With the service you get from State Farm, you might think our car insurance costs more, but with discounts up to 40%, you may find it even costs less. Call me, State Farm Agent Nikki Ogundile, at 614-274-7130 or 1-800-717-3497. Let's see how much you can save.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works, Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
All right. You are listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. And if you'd like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766. And we will do our best to get you on the air. The year 2015, Mr. Fuller, to me, seems to be a year of something that you mentioned in your opening about, I call it the it factor. And your it factor is, since you deal with racism, white supremacy, is that you must understand what the it is and how it works. That seems to be at least that's the theme that I'm adopting. Whatever the it is, to understand it, and and you need to ask questions logically about it, and then importantly, how it works. I think not to do that is an injustice to yourself. With that in mind, is the whole system of racism, white supremacy, in your opinion, Mr. Neely Fuller's opinion, is the whole system of racism, white supremacy based on deceit?
Yes, deceit and violence.
Yes.
And deception is a form of violence if it's used in a manner that does unjust harm to a person. And so the white supremacists cannot stand over, they don't have the personnel to stand over everybody 24 hours a day with a gun pointed to his or her head among the non-white people of the planet. So what's the easiest way, the most efficient way of dominating and mistreating people on a wholesale basis worldwide, 24 hours a day in all areas of activity, people of color? What's the most efficient way, if this is what you intend to do, of doing that? You do it through deception. You find the most sophisticated ways of fooling people in every area of activity. You have to do it in all areas, because if you leave one area unattended, that area will slip up behind you, and catch you napping and throw your whole system off guard. So the white supremacists have very scientifically figured out how they are going to deceive people or dominate people of color through deception by fooling them in all of the areas of activity. In economics, they use tricky language. You can't buy a car or a house without being fooled. That's a tip-off right there, because those are two very important things. They make health care very complicated. They cause diseases and then claim that they are trying to cure the diseases that they have caused.
This is
which
true.
They are smart enough to have already figured out how to cure the disease, because they know how to cure the disease before they even put it out there. Otherwise, they couldn't control it themselves. So they'll do that. They'll selectively deceive people by saying, I have to come into your area because you are now, I'm a humanitarian. You're eaten up with this disease, and this disease is not only going to wipe you out, it will eventually wipe out other people. So you let us come into your area and see what we can do to control it and vanquish it. Because we are the smart people who know how to do it, because you're not smart enough to even figure out what the disease is. You're a bunch of dark-skinned, dumb people like you are about everything. So therefore, Big Daddy and Big Mama White have to come in and take care of business, because you don't know how to take care of anything. Because for one thing, I've seen to it that your ancestors, long before you, wouldn't be able to take care of anything, because I captured them, and now you think just the way that I want you to think, and you do the things that I want you to do, even though you think that you're doing it on your own, but you don't do anything on your own because I'm running everything, but I have deceived you into thinking that you are running something.
Yes, and with that in mind, I was doing, again, some research yesterday, and I reintroduced myself to this study on cannabis oil in regards to cancer. And when I looked at it, I saw that cannabis oil can cure and has cured at least 34 known cancers. I found out that a study of the cannabis oil was done by the NIH, which is the National Institutes of Health, that was commissioned by Richard M. Nixon back in 1971, I believe it was, and then after they did their studies, they released the information in 1974. And he was very upset that the institutes came up with this conclusion that cannabis oil could cure at least 34 cancers and more. And as I was thinking about that, well, if this is true, and I have visited this subject more than a few times, but the question in my mind, Mr. Fuller, if this is true, and I do believe that it's true, which really has nothing to do with whether I believe it or not, but if this is true, then why are people still dying from cancers when it can be cured?
Well, if that is true, and it could be, because there are a lot of things that are true in the system of white supremacy that are said to be false by the white supremacists. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they are white supremacists, and they are the masters of deception. So the white supremacists may put out the report that cannabis oil will do this. And then on the other hand, it may be true that it will do this, because an arch deceiver will say something that is true many times. But then right behind that, they'll say something that is not true. And what does this cause? This causes confusion. Which is exactly what they want. Mm-hmm. They always want confusion in any discussion that it has to do with non-white people, people of color, black, brown, red, and yellow people of this planet. They always want you to wind up confused after every conversation, after every proposal, after everything that is said in the newspapers.
Okay, then logically, if what you said is true, then logically you would have to ask the question, and that question would be, why do they want to do that?
Why do they want to confuse people?
What? Yes.
Because you can dominate people when you confuse them.
Okay.
If it's 10 people in a room, I often give this illustration, and the fire bell goes off, and only one person knows where the fire exit is. That person is the most powerful person in that room. And that person can get the other 9 people burned alive by sending them in the incorrect direction. Because that's the only person who is found out. That person has information. That's the smartest person in the room when that fire bell goes off. That's the only person who knows where the fire exit is. So that person sets off the fire alarm and then tells everybody else the fire exit is in the basement, when the fire exit is really on the 3rd floor. And so everybody heads for the basement. Mm-hmm. And then they get trapped down there. And then they're overcome by smoke or flames. And that person has been successful in exterminating the 9 people, because that was the plan in the first place. But the person became well informed first on where the fire exit is, and put a sign up where it isn't, so that the people go in the incorrect direction, and also lead the people in that direction. The white supremacists have succeeded in doing this in every 9 area, all the 9 areas of activity among the non-white people of this planet.
Because they
economics, education, they are deceiving, non-white people in the field of education, telling them that they are educated when they are not, teaching them what they want them to know that will fit into their plans, and they'll tell you just a little bit. See, which arch deceiver always knows what the truth is, and an arch deceiver will always mix the truth with lies.
Yes, sir, which makes the whole thing a lie.
Yes, see, but they will tell you something that is absolutely true, and that's the hook, because when you check it out, you'll find out that it is true. But then they will mix it in later on with something that is absolutely false. Now they have that recipe that they wanted when they put this concoction together.
So they hook you and draw you in.
Yes. See, just like a card shark, just like in the movie The Hustler, Fast Eddie Felson. He would lose a few games.
On
shooting
purpose.
pool on purpose. Make it look like, staggering around, drinking whiskey while he's playing pool.
But he's got a plan in mind.
But his plan in mind is to get the other people standing around the table saying, this guy's half drunk. He doesn't know what he's doing.
So he's deceiving
So I'm
them.
going to bet, I'm going to place my bets accordingly. Because he's just a natural-born loser. He doesn't know what he's doing. And he's putting big money on the table, thinking that he knows what he's doing. But the truth is, he knows what he's doing. That's one of the lessons of that movie, The Hustler. It's an excellent movie to study, okay? Because it's about what you call character. It's about what you call deception. It's about a lot of things. It's about existence itself. I've seen that movie many, many times. Sometimes I point out movies that people can see.
Right, I've heard you do this.
It's called The Hustler with Paul Newman.
Paul Newman, yes.
Right. And it's a movie that people can learn a lot from. About existence, about relationships.
Okay.
And about deception.
You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Neely Fuller. And again, if you would like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766. A question came up with one of the people who I communicate with, and the question was concerning language, in particular, language, in particular the English language. Is it coincidence that it seems that the English language is the predominant language around the world? In particular, this gentleman was speaking about, he flies all over the world, and he noticed that even in places that when a plane comes in, they're speaking English. And I never really thought about that. I don't fly around the world yet. But what are your thoughts on that, about the English language being potentially the dominant language in the planet? And is that on purpose?
Well, it's the language that the white supremacists certainly use because it's a very flexible language, which is why I have manipulated some of the words in such a way that I think the words work best for constructive purposes.
That's what flexibility
rather than
means?
Non-constructive purposes. And, language is just a tool for communicating. They're just sounds that are put in the form of characters, you might say, or markings on paper, so that people can say things to each other in an efficient manner. But the white supremacists, you can just put labels on it. All languages slide into other languages. All languages, there's no such thing as a language that is just separate from all other languages. All languages have some words that are similar to other words or other sounds in languages that are supposed to be alien. But the white supremacists understand this, but they're just ways of communicating. People sending smoke signals, that's a language.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Depending on whether or not you understand that when you see the smoke, that someone is sending you a message. You have to understand this. Otherwise, it's just some smoke that you see over there coming from the other mountain. Somebody has to tell you, well, now, when you see this puff of smoke, this means this. When you see another type of puff of smoke or three puffs of smoke in a row, that means this, and that means that. And then they'll change it around, okay? And it's the English language, I mean, that sometimes a word will mean one thing for the first 100 years and mean something else for another 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Take the word, and we mentioned something this morning. We didn't mention the actual word, but it applies to people who are, quote, unquote, homosexual, and that word is gay. Now, you can use that word several ways. If you use it in the 1930s, it usually applied, generally speaking, and right up until the 1960s, I guess, to a person who's happy.
Yes.
Now, when you say a person is gay and is officially said in official language, quote, unquote, official language, the word gay no longer just means happy. It means homosexual. Is this not the case?
You're right.
Yes, it is.
You're right.
It's the same word, but it means a different thing. Why? Because somebody made a decision that it would mean a different thing.
That's true. Somebody made a decision.
Yes. And who the somebody was, I don't know. Now, somebody probably can research it and find out when did it actually make that crossover and by whom. Who was the person who says, oh, that doesn't mean it's just happy. It can mean happy. Here again, see, can mean. It can mean happy, even today. But then on the other hand, it can mean something else.
Because the predominant thought of the word gay now does refer to someone being homosexual. But we don't know how it got there, but we do know that when we hear that word, that is the predominant thought now.
And we do not know the name of the actual person. Rather, I don't.
Yes.
I won't say we, because somebody knows, particularly the person who decided that it's going to have several meanings now. Okay? Who is that person? Who is the person that actually made that change? And someone might even ask, what gave you the authority to make the change? Well, I'll tell you, the same people who usually make the authority of changing any word is the person who changes the word, because that's the way language is. All languages are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just decides that this language is going to mean this. This language is going to mean that.
So when they said
black
gay,
people themselves invent.
When they said
terms.
gay Paris, back in the day, when I first heard that term, I thought it was just people who were happy in Paris. But they said gay Paris. Now, in your time, when you heard that term, if you've heard that term, what did that mean to you, or what does that mean to you?
Well, it didn't mean homosexual until the to me, it didn't mean homosexual until the 1960s.
Okay.
I mean, that's when I first started hearing the word used in that context. I never heard it used prior to that in that context. When I was coming up in the country and somebody was homosexual, we just usually said that he's odd, or the typical word that we use among black people was funny.
Yeah, was funny.
Yeah, they say, oh, you're talking about Willie. Oh, Willie's funny, and everybody knew what you meant.
Yeah, or different.
Now, here again, that's a word. The word funny. The word funny could mean homosexual even in the old days. Or it could mean that the person is comical.
Mm-hmm.
The person tells a lot of jokes.
Mm-hmm. So in the word guide that you put out along with the book, you try to explain the meaning of words?
Yes, I use the words in such a manner that since come one, come all, that's what's happened to the English language, I use words that are common words in such a manner that I say help the victim of racism to fight racism. I give new definitions to the same words.
To the same words. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And like I just said in the early part of this program, we can use the word white supremacy and divorce it completely from the word American by simply saying it's impossible to be an American and be a white supremacist. It ain't going to happen. And an American is a person that doesn't mistreat anybody. That's a whole nother definition, but that's a true definition. If the use of the word American in a laudatory fashion, in other words, if you're going to praise being an American, if you're going to be proud to be an American, it's impossible for you to mistreat anyone. That's the way it should be looked at. I mean, we're cutting no corners at all, cutting nobody any slack. You mistreat someone one time, today, at this minute, and you are no longer an American. You are a person that mistreats people, and that's universal, because people are being mistreated all over the planet. So what makes you so special, and you just mistreated your neighbor, and you call yourself an American?
Wow.
That's impossible.
That's impossible.
And I'm saying it's impossible.
Okay.
And that's the way it should be looked at, and that's the way every black person should say it all over the world. Not only that, that's true also of an African or an Asian. It's impossible for you to be an African or an Asian, and you just mistreated somebody. That's impossible. I don't know who you are, but I know what you aren't. You're not an African, you're not an American, and you're not an Asian. So who are you other than a mistreater?
Mistreated. We have a call. Go ahead, caller, with your call for Mr. Fuller.
Hi, Mr. Fuller. My name is Keith. I'm calling from New York. I want to say thank you for writing the book. It's helped me out tremendously. One question I want to ask is about how does having an intimate relationship, a sexual relationship with a white person, further victimize a non-white person? Because I've heard you say that before.
Yes, I put it in the book. It's because in the system of white supremacy, the system of white supremacy is a prison system, and the non-white people of this planet have been taken prisoner. So therefore, when a white person in the system of white supremacy has sexual intercourse with a non-white person, that is the same as a warden having sexual intercourse with a prisoner. It's also the same as a, quote, unquote, adult person having sexual intercourse with a child.
Wow.
Because the non-white people, the black people of this planet, in the system of white supremacy, have been put into a childlike position in every area of activity. We are childlike. Economics, we are childlike. Education, we are childlike. Entertainment, we are childlike. Politics, religion. Why? Because we come under the authority of Big Mama and Big Daddy, who are the white supremacists of this world. Why? Because children are dependent on grown people. The white supremacists are the grown people of this planet in the system of white supremacy, and the victims of white supremacy, black people, brown people, red people, are the children, the illegitimate children.
We have another call. Go ahead, caller. What's your call for Mr. Fuller?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, go ahead, quickly.
Oh, yeah, this is Mr. Fuller, he likes to use that word prison all the time, and I was trying to explain to a friend of mine that this slavery that black people say that they were in was actually being in prison, because look at the similarities. When you're taken to court and found guilty of a crime, they put you in chains and they escort you to a prison. Well, we were brought over here in chains. In prison, you have to get up early in the morning and go to a work assignment. Well, when we were in slavery, you had to get up early in the morning and had to go to a work assignment. So this slavery that African Americans have always thought that they were in was actually prison, and the white supremacist that Mr. Fuller talked about is the warden of that prison. He's in prison with us, and he's actually the warden at the same time.
Yes, that's true. And what we call prison, like black people are being put into prisons, and they occupy prisons now all over the world and whatnot in great numbers, that's greater confinement. We're already confined. If you're a person of color, the white supremacists have already confined you to certain sections of town and all like this. So you're already confined. You're confined in economics. You're confined in education. You're confined in entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. You're confined. You're already you're a captive prisoner. So when they put you in greater confinement, That's what we call jail and prison.
Yes.
That's just greater confinement.
And the music means it's time to close. Thank you, caller. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. TalkTameRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, radio the way it should be heard. We will see you next week. Thank you.
You got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTameRadio.com.